Okay, my name is Anne-Willem Omta. I'm a postdoc here at PEOC in the MIG Follows biogeochemistry group. I'm from the Netherlands. Before coming here, I've lived there my entire life. And my research focuses on the partitioning of carbon between the ocean and the atmosphere. And the importance of that really is the global warming issue. We're emitting a lot of CO2. Part of that is being taken up by the ocean. Question is, how much will be taken up in the future? How much more will be taken up? And there are still some questions surrounding that. So that is, and therefore I'm doing this modeling work. I did my undergraduate studies in Utrecht. I studied the combination of physics and meteorology and physical oceanography there. Then I did my PhD at the Vrije Universiteit, but so the topic was on the boundary of biology, theoretical biology and physical oceanography. So I was in the theoretical biology group at the Vrije Universiteit in Amsterdam, but my second supervisor was Henk Dijkstra from the IMAU in Utrecht, who had also been my supervisor for an undergraduate research project. So actually through him I came into that PhD that I finished 2 years ago. At the end of my PhD, I made a long trip through the United States and through Germany to look for postdoc positions, and especially also to look for people with whom I would feel like a connection on a personal and a scientific level. And with MIG, I felt it was there. Well, I think that the main research question I'm interested in the end is the glacial interglacial CO2 problem. During ice ages, CO2 levels are lower in the atmosphere, and that's been found from ice core measurements. And we do not really understand why. I mean, there are some effects. Some of them are quite robust. I mean, we know that CO2 dissolves better in colder water than in warmer water, but that doesn't amount to much, not enough to explain the whole thing. And there are some other effects about which, well, there are some doubts whether it really happened. So we don't really have the full picture yet, and it means that at some fundamental level we don't understand the ocean carbon cycle yet. And that is, in the end, that is a bit, I'd say, my personal view, that is a bit worrying given the amount of CO2 that we're pumping in this system, that we don't really understand what happens to it. So, but I try to use models of various different complexities. So I mean, that's an approach that is quite often used in a field like physical oceanography, but in ocean biogeochemistry it's not that common, although over the past few years more people have been going in that direction. Actually, Taka Ito was one of the first who tried to also think not only in terms of big models, but also in terms of analytical formulas, which in my view give a lot more insight. So one thing about which I just published 2 papers are just very simple analytical mathematical formulas for the equilibrium distribution of CO2 between atmosphere and ocean as a function of total CO2 in the system, temperature, and alkalinity. Yeah, it's a bit of a complicated concept, but it has something to do with the amount of bases in the ocean. And the thing is, people have been seen from simulations that, for example, if you change the ocean temperature, the average temperature of the ocean by 1 degree, you get 10 ppm extra CO2 in the atmosphere. Well, Mick and I were talking about it, and we were thinking, well, would it be possible just to derive that? And indeed, I mean, I did the derivation and I checked the results with the MIT GCM in a relatively simple setup, but and indeed it overlapped almost perfectly. I mean, this is interesting, but it's still at the level of basically explaining model results, and I think there's still something important lacking in the models. That's why we can't explain the glacial interglacial cycle. So I'm also working on some very simple models, dynamical models, for which might explain the glacial interglacial cycles, but that's still very preliminary. Basically, I use computers and pens and papers. That is basically so. What I generally try to do is write down some equations and then solve them myself by pen and paper, or generally they're a bit too complicated for me, at least, to solve myself. So then you translate those simple formulas into a simple computer model. Very simple, doesn't take long to run. And then you have some simple predictions, and then I try to see whether I also see those type of things if I use a more realistic or a bigger numerical model, which is considered more realistic. And those type of simulations usually take much more time. That easily can take a few days or a few weeks. And I think in general, I lean a lot on the kind of quantitative way of thinking, of like thinking in terms of formulas and things that I learned a long time ago when I was an undergraduate student in physics. And it's very hard to pinpoint. I mean, not really anything of the things that I specifically learned as a physics student is very relevant now, but the way of thinking is, it's a very, all of a sudden you can have an idea, and then all of a sudden it can go like this, and then and then sometimes you can get stuck, like what to do with it. I mean, what is the next step, and how am I going to write this down and sell it? And then when you've done that, then and in the process you can have all kinds of technical problems. I mean, which easily delay things for months. And then when you get some manuscript out, often, I mean, feedback from other people can also take a long time. And and the thing is, and then if you get good feedback, then again that can steer you all of a sudden in another direction, which can again create a leap. But there's a lot of points at which you can have have for quite some time that you're kind of stuck, and that is indeed something that that's difficult. I mean, in the end, I very much like to discover things. I mean, and often for a long time you don't discover anything, and but just the thrill of trying to uncover things that people didn't know yet. I mean, for me, something which was kind of formed me was my first undergraduate research project already about 10 years ago. I was doing that. With a very simple model for the wind-driven ocean circulation, we applied that to the so it's only the upper 1,000 meters. We applied that to the tertiary period. So basically, I shifted the continents as they've shifted over the past 65 million years, and then you just basically, I was writing history with my model, and you saw the ACC emerging and the Gulf Stream, and I mean those were all kinds of things that we kind of expected. Then we also saw a flow reversal between the so there was this Panama Strait between the Atlantic and the Pacific Ocean, and the flow reversed at some point, and I could find I mean, it was known, I saw it in my model, it was known from geological observations, and then by just being smart and using Godfrey's island rule, I could explain that. And from that moment, basically, I was hooked.